on 95.6 FM, DAB digital radio, BBC Introducing, and online, BBC WM.
Coming up in the next 5 minutes or so, though, we will be playing tribute. You may have read about this story in the local press recently. A tragic story. Kinver songwriter, musician, a member of a Dudley band, killed last week in a tragic road accident. And there's a memorial gig, a benefit gig happening tomorrow night in Starbridge in tribute for him. We're going to be catching up with one of his bandmates on the show in the next 5 minutes. So a terrible story.
It's a really sad story, isn't it?
More on that in the next 5 minutes or so.
Maybe we should go and check out one of these venues that we haven't been to before as well.
Yeah, it should be good. Speaking of gigs, massive one, a very poignant one happening tomorrow night in Starbridge at Katie Fitzgerald's, and coming up next on the show, a tribute to a Kinver band member, a musician from Kinver who tragically died last week.
BBC Introducing. Indie rock to heavy metal, acoustic folk to R&B. BBC WM Introducing with Brett Burks and Louise Briley.
Tomorrow night at Katie Fitzgerald's in Starbridge, a benefit gig will be held in memory of Steve Cutler, who was lead guitarist and singer for Dudley band The Picture. Steve was tragically killed as he was driving home from band rehearsal last Thursday night. Joining me now is Steve's friend, bandmate, Fred Fieldhouse. Fred, good evening, and I just want to say first of all how sorry we all are here at WM to hear about Steve.
Well, it's very kind of you. Obviously, the band at present are just working through the process, but we're still sort of in shock. But indeed, we're just trying to come to terms with it at the moment and accept it. And as we all know, if we've lost somebody, it's difficult. But you know, we're just doing what we can, I think. So that's the current state of things, really.
Fred, what exactly happened last Thursday night?
Well, we finished rehearsing, and we generally have a pint down the lawns. We only ever have one. We never sort of drink and drive. So Steve headed off. I said good night to him, as we normally do. And he headed home towards Kinver, where he lives. And just on the way, not far from his house, sadly, the timing was unbelievable. A tree came down, a 40-foot tree on top of his car, and killed him instantly. And that sort of thing is devastating. I mean, you know, say a heart attack, you might think, yes, okay, but this was a bizarre incident, we thought, and so that's basically what actually happened. Yeah.
And it was just a week ago tonight. Steve got family, he's got children too.
That's right. He's got two lads. There's Alex and James. They're both in their 20s, and he's got a wife, Alison. Yeah.
And where were you when you heard the news?
Well, I went to work the next day, and John, the drummer, phoned me around about 11:30. And he just told me, sort of said, well, I've got some bad news. I thought they were going to kick me out of the band, actually. He just said that what had happened, and Steve died last night. And, of course, straight away I said to him, well, I can't take this in, you know. So that was it. I heard the next morning, yeah.
And have you presumably have spoken to Steve's family since?
Well, yes, I've been round, because I knew them well anyway. I knew his wife well and his kids pretty well. They've been to gigs and seen us play. So, yes, I've been round, and we've helped each other and talked about him, really, and that sort of thing, yeah.
And how are they bearing up?
Well, you know, as you can imagine, it's very difficult. We're going through the emotions of, you know, we're happy, we're sad. It's that sort of thing. We're all just trying to get it together, you know, and keep his memory alive would be the long-term goal, I think, you know.
Tell me a little bit about your band,
We actually the bare bones of the band formed about 3 years ago. Steve and I sort of started the band up. But since then, we recruited some old friends of ours, Kevin Martin on guitar, John O'Neill on the drums. Steve was lead guitar and vocals and main songwriter. I was also main songwriter, bass and vocals. So, you know, between us, we were both putting out material and trying to do the best we could. And we've gigged at sort of the Robin 2. We've recently at the Roadhouse at Birmingham. We've done a lot of gigs. We've had some record company interest. You know, it's sort of going quite nicely as we speak. You know, you just keep plodding away at it. We've liked live work, and we've enjoyed doing that.
And how important was music to Steve?
Well, I think it was absolutely everything to him. He loved listening to music. He listened to all sorts of genres. He went to see bands a lot. So and he'd been playing guitar like myself since the early 70s. So, I was originally in a band at school with him years ago, back in 1972. I've known him for 40 years, and he's always loved music. It's been his passion in life, as it is for me. So, yes, it was the big thing in his life. Obviously his family goes without saying, but his passion was music, certainly.
Benefit gig tomorrow night, Katie Fitzgerald's in Wollaston. It's just off the Starbridge Ring Road. Did you consider pulling the gig at all, Fred?
Well, we were dubious about doing anything after, how do we carry on? But, it's far too early to say that. But Katie's very kindly contacted me and they said they'd either pull the night in respect for Steve, or would we like them to do a sort of benefit gig for Steve, a memorial gig, and we then said, well, that's a very good idea. So originally, we as a band, the three of us, weren't going to appear, but we discussed it, and we got a song called Now and Forever, which is about sort of long-term friendship and stuff. It wasn't written specifically for anybody, but it's now got a sort of meaning that it didn't have. So we all just discussed it and said, well, we'll get up as a three-piece, do the one number round about 10 o'clock, half 10, in Steve's honour. We thought that'd be a fitting thing initially to do.
And I presume, it sounds, of course, it's so recent. Steve only died a week ago. Are you going to carry on with the band beyond tomorrow night?
Well, we've got another similar gig coming up at the Earl of Dudley Arms in Dudley. That venue too. We were due to play a gig there as well, as we were vacated. They're going to do a similar night. All proceeds are going to Steve's family, another benefit gig. So we'll do the same again for that. We were booked as the Picture to play there. There's a few other bands on, and we'll do our one number again. So that's as far as we've got, really. I do know, and I'm certain that Steve, if he was standing here now, would be telling me to carry on. But obviously, it's very early, and we're just, working through this at the moment.
You've sent us a track of a song by the Picture. We're going to play that now, Fred. Tell me a little bit about this song.
Right, the Picture. Yeah, well, Steve wrote the Picture himself. We were looking for a band name, and as musicians will tell you, you're trying to think of a name, and you can't. You suddenly go blank. What should we call it? So he'd written this song called The Picture. It was sort of about opposites. It's always, I'm always stopping, you're always starting. I'm always asking, you're always, it was a sort of question and answer song, but it was quite good. And we thought, yeah, The Picture, that's a good song, which Steve wrote. And then we thought, yeah, well, we'll call the band The Picture. We'd just come to that conclusion after racking our brains. So we did, and it's sort of, that's it. That's more or less how it came about, yeah.
Fred, thanks very much indeed. We will be thinking of you tomorrow night. Katie Fitzgerald's The Picture, performing in memory of their lead guitarist and singer Steve Cutler, who died last Thursday night. This is The Picture with a self-titled track, The Picture.
head straight on. You're always right to say that I'm always wrong. I'm always here, but don't really